Questions, and then the first speaker from our end will be Mr. Ikeolua. Mr. Ikeolua, you can please go ahead.
Hello,
So,
sir.
Mr. Ikeolua, we
just a second. I'll join shortly.
Hello.
I just want to set up my device. Sorry. Okay, I think I'm good to go. So, good evening, everyone, or afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Ikeolua, and I will be sharing shortly about the basics of securing the Hong Kong PhD scholarship fellowships. Please, could that person be muted? I mean, whoever that is. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen shortly. Could the admin please allow me to share? Admin? Oh, thank you. It's done now, thanks.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to go back all the way to the beginning. So like I said, I'm going to be talking briefly about the Hong Kong PhD Fellowship Scheme, one of the most prestigious scholarships that you find around the world. And most of the information that you see or you're going to see in my presentation can be found here. I mean, the bottom left-hand corner, that's the web link. So what I just done is extract, and then based on my experience, I've prepared some details. So this session shouldn't probably 5 or so minutes will be about the scholarship itself and then the general eligibility criteria. So the specifics here are for the 2023-2024 session. That is for the session that opens, sorry, the application season that opens in September, closes in December. That is September 2022, which is what we have now. And then it's going to close in December, maybe 1st or 2nd of December 2022. So that is for the session that begins in September of 2023. So I'm taking off. So it was set up by the Research Grants Council of Hong Kong. That's one of the key parastatals of the Hong Kong Educational Department, and the HKPFS, as it is properly known, began in 2009. I'm not going to waste time with this because it doesn't really add anything. And the objective is to attract excellent students to pursue a PhD in Hong Kong universities. Actually, I was going to use the word lure instead of attract because that's really what they're doing because the money is so much. I'm going to share that anyway shortly. So anybody, students around the world are welcome. I don't think there's any restriction regard to the nationality that can actually apply. So basically, they want you to come and contribute to the economy. That's what you're doing here. And they actually reward you very handsomely for it. And the award is to the tune of 325,200 Hong Kong dollars annually for 3 years. And that is about 41,690 US dollars. So you can just imagine, so you can just do a quick calculation. By the time you divide that by 12, you see that you have making about maybe 2.3, 2.4 thousand Hong Kong dollar per month. Okay, for most universities, you have to pay school fees from the stipend you're given. Okay, and for some universities, depending on the kind of scholar that you are, and then depending on whether you've had maybe some publications or some awards, you can actually get a tuition waiver. So you may not have to pay tuition. You may not have to pay, even pay accommodation in some cases. So you get to keep the entire money for the whole month. And I tell you, it's a whole lot of money. And then in addition to the stipend you get, you also have a travel allowance, private conferences, and for research visits and the likes. So that is to the tune of 13,600 Hong Kong dollars annually. And as you can see, the equivalent for that is 1,740 USD. So on the basic level, the stipend is supposed to be paid for 3 years. But some of the schools in Hong Kong actually require that you stay private beyond 3 years. Like for example, City University, the default time to complete the program is 4 years. For HKUST, that is the university I'm in, it actually has you have a minimum of 3 years and a maximum of 4 normative time actually. If you have a master's degree, a research master's actually, from wherever you're coming from, you can actually spend 3 years if you fulfill all your graduation requirements in those 3 years. So, but then if for any reason you have to stay beyond those 3 years, I think depending on how satisfactory your performance is with your supervisor, you could actually be, you know, your studentship, sorry, not studentship, your stipend could be extended for an extra year or for as long as possible, as long as I believe your supervisor can convince the RGC. The RGC is the Research Grants Council. So these are the universities in Hong Kong that participate in the HKPFS scheme. We have the City University of Hong Kong, Chinese University of Hong Kong, Lingnan University, the Educational University of Hong Kong, HKUST, that is Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, the University of Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and the Hong Kong Baptist University. And by the way, most of these universities are highly ranked globally. They're highly ranked globally. I mean, so you can do your quick research, maybe QS rankings and all the ranking platforms. You can check out the ranking of Hong Kong University and see that they actually have a pretty solid standing around the world. So you know that you're not just coming because of the money. There's also some prestige attached to attending a world-class university. So these are universities. There are also some other universities in Hong Kong, but then they do not really participate. Outside of this, other universities are not are not privy to the fellowship. So another thing is when you're applying, you have to make sure that, okay, how do I put this? Okay, maybe I'll talk about that later. I'll just talk about that later. So what I was thinking of saying is that each of the universities have their own specialties. Okay, some are actually leaning towards science and technology, while some actually lean towards liberal arts and social sciences. So while some lean towards liberal arts and social sciences, so depending on what your program is and what you want to study, so you have to do a little bit of background research on the university. Okay. So next on the line, we have eligible programs here. So like I said before, there are 2 general classifications of programs in Hong Kong here. We have programs relating to sciences, pure and applied sciences, medicine, engineering, technology, and other related fields. And then the other broad classification is behavioral sciences, where we talk about business, humanities, and social sciences. I have a limited time, and I do not think I should do this, but I think like I said before, each university has its own specialty or specification, as the case may be. So for example, when you're talking about medicine, if you, for some reason, are interested in medicine or medical related courses, we talk about CUHK, that is Chinese University of Hong Kong, and Hong Kong University. I think those are the 2 prominent universities along the medical field. Of course, there are other things, but that's actually what they are really known for. And when it comes to engineering and technology, first on that list is Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. And then I think Polytechnic University, City University. When it comes to things like computer science, talk about City University, Polytechnic University. And then when you talk about courses like, let me see, which other famous courses do we have? Let's say liberal arts, of say, for example, journalism, languages, history and the like. You talk about Baptist University, Lingnan University. So basically, like the basic idea behind all these, discriminations, descriptions and dissection is just to make sure that when you apply, it's not just random. You have to make sure that the school you're applying to has the program you're interested in. So that's that about the eligible programs. And I think all the programs, we have virtually program is covered, basically. Virtually, let me not say all, virtually all university programs are actually covered within these general classifications that I have put here in the slide. And last but not the least, these are the broad eligibility criteria. There's some other stuff, but then they will be handled by subsequent presenters. And I think the first on the list is outstanding academic performance. You may not be familiar with the East here, but in the East, they are hyper meritocratic in the sense that they are crazy about grades, if I put it that way. So to a very large extent, the HKPFS favors first-class students to a very large extent. So if you have maybe first-class results, maybe undergraduate, and say distinctions in masters, I mean, you have basically have a very solid transcript or transcripts, as the case may be, you have a very high chance of being accepted. I mean, these guys love grades. They absolutely love grades. So if you have a very solid grades, you have a solid transcript, and maybe for some reason, if you can actually present evidence that, oh, maybe you led your class, or you're in the top maybe 1% or something, those kind of high level comparisons, if you can include that in your in your SOP, then there's a high chance you're going to get it. And then another thing is research ability. So basically, a PhD is a research degree. In Hong Kong here, the emphasis on the PhD is research. Unlike, say, the United States, where you have to do maybe 1 or 2 years of coursework before you without even touching research. But here in Hong Kong, for most universities and for most supervisors, most supervisors, you start research for the very first day you start the program. So it's not, you just probably take courses on the side. You have to, of course, pass your courses, but then the emphasis is not on the course at all. So your supervisor, in a lot of cases, will actually tell you like the course is just to flow righteousness in code. It's not really there. It's just to create this impression of, okay, you have really a particular component. But what these guys are really, really interested in is disability. And as a result, if you say you have maybe 1 or 2 papers, you have publication or research experience that you can include in your application, that is going to be a huge boost for you. That's going to be a huge boost for you. And then next we have sound communication and relational skills. So I think that's universal. So if you're going to be conducting research in the research group, or say with, in where you have to work with other people, you have to be able to communicate, and then you have to be able to interact with other people. Although these guys are mostly Chinese, there's a whole lot of Chinese people here. This is like a Chinese, but then you get to see other people from around the world, people from the West, a lot of people from Africa, and some other places. But then the highest population of our students you find here are Chinese. So although English may not be their first language, but then all academic activities are conducted in English language. So it's expected they're able to communicate in that language. And one thing I'm going to say is, if you are good with the use of English language, I think you're going to do very well in Hong Kong. You're going to do very well, especially when it comes to maybe writing papers, interacting with your supervisor. I mean, they really value it, since it's not their main thing. It's not like their primary language. And if seeing somebody that can actually interact in English language sort of impresses supervisors, I think. And last but not least is the ability to take initiative, which essentially is leadership. So you'll be able to, like, I think that also depends on the research group and the research supervisor. Some would want to tell you what to do, while some will be like, you know what, it's your research, right? I'm just going to give you the broad topic. So you go figure out what to do. And then whatever you find out, bring it to me. I'm going to vet it. And then we continue that way. So I've seen both styles. But then whether or not you are given, you have a supervisor that requires that, hey, you know what, do this, do your own thing, or I'm going to tell you what to do. You must show a sense of, initiative. Like, you must have a sense of, I'm able to take initiative, I'm able to take ownership of my research, and I'm willing to lead. So in summary, what these 4 characteristics or criteria it's indicating the things that you should include in your SOP, that's your statement of purpose. So I believe if you're going to write any SOP that is targeted at winning the HKPFS, it must be drafted around these 4 principal characteristics. You must be able to actually convince whoever is going to read it that you actually sound in any of this in academic performance, you're able to conduct research, sound communication, and able to take initiative. So that will be all from my end for now. Is there any question? Is there any question before I hand it over to the next person?
Thank you so much, Ikeolua. We would go ahead with the second presenter, and after everything would allow participants to ask their questions.
It's all right. Welcome. Thank you.
Mirko, do you want to go ahead, or is it Dr. Mistura that's going to go first?
The next presenter will come on.
Okay. Good evening from Hong Kong, and good afternoon in Nigeria. My name is Mr. Salaudin. So I would continue from where Ike stopped. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Yeah. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, just give me a minute. Yeah, so we'll talk about now that we all know what HKPFS is all about and everything it entails, I'll talk about the application requirements. What are the things you need to apply for this scholarship? But I just want to add, in addition to what Ike mentioned, that when you apply for the HKPFS, sometimes you may not get the HKPFS itself, but if your supervisor, your proposed supervisor nominates you for the HKPFS, but because it's a limited quota, right? In my time, it was 230 people that got the HKPFS. But I think subsequently it was increased to 250, 300. I don't know. I don't know the current one right now. So, but if you do not get the HKPFS, you and the school or your supervisor, your proposed supervisor nominates you, you can get the studentship, which is not as much as the HKPFS, but it's still an opportunity for you to, do your PhD, fully funded. All right, so I'll just go to the application requirements. What are the documents that you need to apply for the HKPFS scholarship? The first and the most important documents you need is your international passport. So the truth is, a lot of Nigerians want to leave the country, but the first step to leaving the country is to have an international passport, because most of the applications you'll be conducting, you need to fill in your passport number and all that. So you are not going to fill in your NIN number or your PVC number. It has to be your international passport. And when you do this, make sure that the passport is not going to expire anytime soon, because when you do get the application, if your passport is going to be expiring in 6 months or 3 months time, it might delay your visa processing. So make sure that your passport is still, on for a long period of time. Yeah. And so the next documents you need is your certificates and your transcripts. So whenever you're applying, you may not have your certificate. For instance, you just finished your BSc, and if it's like most universities in Nigeria, you may not have a certificate instantly, but you will have a statement of results. So you can apply with your statement of results. For my case, I did not even have a certificate before I applied. And even after I got the HKPFS, I still did not have a certificate. I got to Hong Kong before I got my certificate in Nigeria, because these bureaucratic bottlenecks in Nigerian universities. So I had to ask someone to apply for it and all that. But if you don't have a certificate yet, your statement of results and your transcripts would do. Now, for when applying for the HKPFS, there are usually 2 streams. And the first stream is for MPhil. So for MPhil, the certificates you need is your BA or your BSc statement of result and transcript. But for the PhD stream, you need your BSc and your MSc results. So for some very, very smart geniuses, like Miracle, they did not have like a master's, so they applied with their BSc. And so that's what I also want to chip in, that you have to study the school you want to and the program you want to apply for. Some schools allow people without masters to apply for a PhD. I know of a few people here in Hong Kong as well that are on their PhD, but they applied with their BSc results, they did not have a master's. So if you do not have a master's, don't be discouraged. You can apply with your BSc or your BA result, but just ensure, like Ike said, that you have excellent grades. That is what they want, excellent grade. Then they might consider you for, the HKPFS. So yeah, like I mentioned, some departments may admit candidates without, MSc, but it has to be very good results. And the preferred grade is a second class upper or first class, but usually they accept a first class result. If you have a first class, you get it. Second class, they might consider you. And the reason why I included second class is because I also had a second class upper. So I did not have a first class, but I got the HKPFS. So I don't want people who do not have a first class to be discouraged. As long as you have a second class upper, you can stand a chance of getting the HKPFS. So just, throw in your heart. You never can tell. You might get it. Yeah. So the next documents you need is English language proficiency. So for the HKPFS, they want you to provide a proof of English, proficiency. So what you can do for this is that you can obtain the English proficiency from your school. As long as the mode of instruction in your previous university is English, you can obtain that from your school. So you don't need to write TOEFL or IELTS or SATs or things like that. So as long as the medium of instruction your university is English, you can apply to your university to give you a proof of English proficiency, and then you can use that to apply for the HKPFS. So, but that is why this application for HKPFS is sometimes dependent on the requirements of each institution. So for some schools or some programs, for instance, the School of Business in Hong Kong Baptist University, they require GMAT. So you have to apply with a GMAT result. So that is why you just don't assume based on the general. So what we are talking to you about is the general HKPFS requirements. You still need to go to your preferred school, the school of your choice, to go and read their own requirements. So some programs or some schools may also ask you to provide an IELTS, TOEFL, or GMAT. So, but you just have to, but usually the proof of English proficiency from your university should suffice. All right, also, like I said, candidates must fulfill the language requirements stipulated by their chosen school. So you have to check the school's website for these requirements. All right, so another very, very important document you need is your research proposal. As much as HKPFS is a very generous scholarship opportunity, you have to understand that it's a highly competitive research opportunity. You're not the only one applying for it. There are thousands and thousands of people applying for it all over the world. I had the opportunity to check how many people applied in my set. That was in 2018. There were more than 15,000 people that applied, and there were only 230 slots. So like a lot of people are applying. So what would make your research or your application stand out is the quality of your research proposal. I know we are coming from Nigeria, and sometimes it might seem as if maybe we are a little backward in our research in Nigeria. But the good thing is that we have internet, we have Google Scholar, we have a lot of facilities or opportunities to research what is current in your field of study. So just try to check it out. Also, try as much as possible to go through the website of the school of your choice. Go look at the profiles, the research profiles of the professors you're interested in. Look at what they are doing. Try to see if you can do something similar, or try to see if you can do something novel or something that can contribute to the existing knowledge of your field. Okay, and so write a very good research proposal. When you write your research proposal, try to send it to some colleagues or friends that you feel might be able to add, one or two things to it. So make sure that your research is relevant to your field and it fits within the research focus of your chosen department. For instance, you might be applying for, maybe you're interested in, maybe for my school, you're interested in something about economics, and then you apply to your particular field of research in economics is not really relevant to the scope of research they cover in the School of Business. So even if your proposal is excellent, they might reject it because they might say they don't have anyone to supervise you. Or if they do have someone to supervise you, they may say they don't have the lab or the equipment to be able to, support your research. So that's why you have to do your own research first before you begin writing your proposal. Make sure that your research fits within the research focus of your chosen department. For instance, I'm in the School of Communication, right? My research focus is on journalism. Now, my research focus is on international communication, journalism, and all that. But the truth is, only very few researchers in my school actually do something related to international communication. Most are focused on organizational communication, health communication, computational analysis, and all that. So, but there is one lecturer actually that is, focused on that, and that was the lecturer that actually, gave me the opportunity for this HKPFS. So try as much as possible to do your own research so that your effort in writing a research proposal will not just be wasted. All right, also ensure that your proposed research is novel and contributes to existing knowledge. So don't write a proposal of something that of a research that they've already found everything they can about it and they've moved on to the next stage. So try as much as possible to be current and novel when you all approach an existing topic from a different perspective using different methodology, right? So it might, make them interested in, funding your research. And the most important thing is to ensure that your proposal is clearly and articulately written and presented. Because the truth is, like Ike said, they appreciate people who can speak clearly, who can articulate themselves clearly. It's a PhD, right? It's not a BSc. They don't need to have to teach you how to speak well or how to write well. So make sure that your research they don't have to crack their brain to understand what you're talking about. So try as much as possible to be, very clear and articulate when writing and presenting your research. The next document you would need is the SOP. So the SOP, I want you to look at the SOP like a document for you to sell yourself. Okay, so yeah, we know you're good, we know you're smart, you have like 6.0 GPA, yes, but why should we? Give us more reasons why we should give you this opportunity. There are a lot of people that also have the same grades as you. There are also a lot of people that have the same, capabilities as you, but what makes you stand out? So this is what the statement of purpose is all about. So it's a personal statement that reflects your desire to study the program and your reason for selecting the program and how you intend to add value to the program. So it's not just about, yeah, I desire to study this program because I feel that it's an important area. Yeah, so when you're writing your SOP, make it more personal, right? Make it personal. Try to convince them on why you need to study this program. What has been your burning desire? What have you done about this particular area of research in the past? And what is propelling you to further, go further in this line of research? How has your own personal background, academic background, social relationships contributed to your desire to study this program? Why did you choose the institution? Why did you choose the program? There are other schools in the US, in Canada. Why didn't you choose them? Why did you choose this very one? So, and this is a very good opportunity to also hype the school. It's a very good opportunity to hype the departments you've chosen or the program you've chosen, right? So these are the things that you need to include in your SOP, because your SOP has to be captivating. They have to, the moment they read the first paragraph and they find that it's not, they can just throw it aside. So a captivating SOP written from like a personal and very, touching, emotional. Don't go and write that I'm very poor family, I need funding. No, they're not going to accept that. But just try as much as possible to leave something personal in your SOP and lead it to your desire to study the program. Okay, so another thing is that each university or program will also stipulate what they expect you to include in your statement of purpose. So when you go to the school of your choice, they might tell you that, okay, this is what we expect to see in your SOP. Why have you chosen our school? Some will not even ask you why you've chosen their school. Some will ask you, why have you chosen Hong Kong, right? Why have you decided to study in Hong Kong? What is it about Hong Kong that actually propelled you to apply for this scholarship, right? So these are the things that you would put into consideration when writing your SOP. All right, so just like your what's it called? Your research proposal, your SOP must be captivating, it must be convincing, it must be interesting, right? So that, because you need to grab the audience, the attention of, the selection committee, and they have like thousands to read. So they don't want something boring. They don't want something that sounds monotonous. They want something that can actually captivate their attention and convince them to, give you the scholarship. Right. All right, so the next is publications. Yeah, publications is actually very, very important, but there are exceptions to it. And that is why you need, beyond what we're telling you right now, you need to go to the school of your choice to read their requirements. So most schools and most programs require you to have publications, a list of publication or a record of publication. But it's not just any publication, because like the publications we usually know in Nigeria are in like Journal of Clinical School that does not have any online presence at all and has no impact factor at all. They may not, you might have 10 of those, but to them it's nothing, right? So they want publications in very good journals, and because it's a testament to your research abilities if you do have these publications. So it's important for you to have like very good publications. It may not be many, it may be few, but are they in good journals? Are they like in like high impact factor journals and all that? So like I mentioned, some universities may not require publication record. The reason why I say that is because for me, before I got the HKPFS, I did not have any publications, right? But I had journalistic publications. So some universities would say that if you do not have research publications, do you have some other what's it called, record or some other publications that is actually a testament to your research prowess or your investigative prowess or even your field of study? I come from a journalism background, right? So I can't be a journalist and not have works that I've published, right? And the interesting thing is that some of these works are also online. Like I could provide what's it called, links to some of the works. So I had like a lot of them, right? So those were the links I provided, and those, you know, contributed to my, you know, getting the scholarship. So you have to understand the school you're applying to, the program you're applying to, and then do exactly what it is they require. And for some programs as well, you may know, I know, okay, I talk about mine because I'm in the field of journalism. I have a friend in the School of Business who did not also have publication, you know, records, but she got maybe not the HKPFS, but the studentship. But the point is, she had a good working experience, so that also counts. If you have experience in the field that you're, you know, applying to, maybe you've worked for a number of years, that can still count as well. So these are the things you might put into consideration when applying for the HKPFS. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the selection criteria. I think Ike has mentioned, you know, most of it, and or all of it rather. So the first is academic excellence. Like I said, they are very, very particular about your grades. And how do they know that you've achieved a good academic excellence is in your research proposal, in your number of publications you have, and even your awards. If you've gotten any award at all, it doesn't matter how teeny tiny the award is, like add it to your CV, add it to your list of achievements, right? So these would count. So they don't need to know how huge the organization that gave it to you is. They don't need to know how big the parastatal is, as long as it is an award of academic excellence or an award of excellence in any way. You can add it. If you've been an Olympic champion at some point in your life, add it. They would appreciate it as well. So academic excellence is one thing they look out for. Aside from your grades, your publication records, these are the things that, you know, counts. So the next is your research ability and potential, and this they judge from the list of publications you have or from your proposal as well. So your proposal is going to tell them if you are capable of handling a research, or if you are capable of, you know, conducting a research, right? So you need very good research ability. You must be able to do it. And if you've not published, add your BSc, BSc thesis to it. And you can say that it is under review somewhere. Add your BSc thesis, add your master's thesis. These are research that you've conducted, right? So you can add them to it as well, right? So these, you know, are very important. And the next is your communication and interpersonal skills. Like Ike mentioned, they want to know how articulate you are, how you're able to communicate, you know, excellently, especially in English language, with them. And because you also have opportunities to present your research in international conferences and all, so they want you to know how to speak to them. And they will judge this through your interviews. When they interview you, for me, I feel that the major reason why you're getting interviewed is to know how well you communicate, how well you are able to articulate your ideas, how well you are able to, you know, present yourself, you know, in a way that they would acknowledge you, or they would accept you. So your communication and interpersonal skills are very, very important. How well you are able to relate with your colleagues. Are you a good team player? Can you collaborate effectively with other people in your department and even outside your department, maybe internationally? So these are the things that they, you know, look out for. And the last one is your leadership abilities. this is very important. There are some sections in the HKPFS application form that would ask you to state some of the leadership roles that you've held in the past. So if at any point you've been your SUG president or your departmental coordinator, something, don't say that this thing is irrelevant. It's important, add it. If at the point, even during your NYC, you've been the president of your CDS group or the general secretary of your CDS group, or even the teeny tiniest position of your CDS group, add it. It's a leadership opportunity. But I don't now know if maybe you are an ESCO in church or in mosque, if that will be accepted. I don't know, I'm not sure. But the point is, if you've served in any social leadership position at all, this is a good, opportunity to showcase yourself, so you can add them to your application. So I wish you all the best in your application process. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nisra, for your presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Very cool. You can go
Thank
ahead.
you. All right. All right, so we continue with the conversation. I mean, like a conversation or seminar now. So I'm going to briefly talk on how to apply and then how to prepare for the interview. So I will just give you a summary of everything the application entails. So the first thing you need to do is to get a supervisor. It is on rare occasions that you can have an issue whereby you get offer without a supervisor. Sometimes, okay, actually, I know a friend that got offer without the supervisor, but the supervisor contacted him after he applies. Do you get? So because the way it is structured is that the supervisor must kind of recommend you for the admission. I get me, especially for MPhil and PhD. So you need to get the supervisor. So first thing you need to do is that you know your department, so have like ideas of the areas you want to pursue your postgraduate. Then look up professors in this field and then send an email to them. So let the email also pass your message, pass your competence, your probably like a summary of your CV, and then your research interest, then send it to them. So there are kind of drafts of this kind of, samples of this kind of emails, like online, if you follow some people on Twitter, you see them sending like samples of how to send email to supervisors. So you can just kind of look at that template and kind of structure yours and then send to them. So once you can get one or two supervisors, I will advise, don't focus on one school alone, just send to we have about 8 schools participating in the HKPFS. So send to all the schools that you can apply to. During my time, I think I got about 3 supervisors from 3 different schools. So at the end of the day, I just have to decide on one. So yeah, so that's just it. So then the next thing now, you apply to the HKPFS. So you go to the HKPFS portal, you apply, and then you will mention the schools, because on the portal you have the choice of 2 schools. So you mention the 2 schools that are like your preferred choice. And then the good thing about the HKPFS is that after you submit the application to the HKPFS, you can always come back to edit your, not the school, but your research, because there are some places where you be asked to input your keywords, your research keywords, so you can edit that area and then save again. But the main purpose of that HKPFS is that once you apply, you will get a reference number. This reference number is what you will use during your application to the university. So the next thing now is you apply to the university. So while you're applying to the university, ensure that you mention, because there will be a section on the portal whereby they will ask you, who is your proposed supervisor? So you need to mention the name of your supervisor. That's the man or the lady or the woman or the lady, anyone that accepts supervise your program. So mention the person's name there. Sometimes you can even get like 2 supervisors, just mention their name, they can go or group into like attach 2 supervisors to you. So it depends, because I think our friend there, Mr. Ike, is actually having 2 supervisors. So yeah, so then the next thing is prepare a proposal. This is very, very important. You need to read you need to, like, after you have informed your supervisor your research interest, then if you want to prepare a proposal, look at what the supervisor is doing in that regard, in that area, then read his work, read review papers I said review papers. Review paper is a way of knowing like a summary of what has been done in that field. So it's very, very useful. You can read like 3 or 4 review papers, so you get an idea of it. And let me tell you something, when you start reading paper the first time, especially when you are reading something that is new to you, the first time reading it can look so kind of uninteresting. You grab. So drop it, read it again, read it like 2-3 times, then read more papers, and then begin to formulate your ideas from the papers. You are going to, actually from the review papers, you will see the research gap. They will tell you, okay, this is what has been done, these are the things that are yet to do, you know. So from there you can pick, so okay, these are what I yet to address, you know, how can you address them? So then you can formulate your kind of proposal around that. And then while you're writing a proposal, try to avoid plagiarism. During my own time, I think it was so funny that in my own church, then we used to go for camp. So I think this time around, I went to the camp with my laptop. My supervisor, that's my proposal supervisor, then was correcting my proposal while I was in camp. They have to rush to the hostel, carry my laptop, revised it. Even there was a day I wanted to travel. I think I was to travel that day. He sent it back to me again to revise. After I've submitted the application, you know, sent me back to me to revise, and I was like, wow. So I have to like wait. I revise the application again, then send it back to him. So that's why I say you can send your proposal to your supervisor. It's going to guide you. You can do a lot of reviews for you. Then after that, then you also prepare your SOP, like Dr. Mistrab said, prepare your SOP, and then you submit your application. Also pay for the application fee. Please let me just make this comment. Don't think the maybe 250 HKD, that's equivalent of like maybe 15,000 or thereabouts, or some schools collect 300 HKD, while some schools 180 HKD. So don't think it's just way too much. Please just some of you must have done NYSC, or maybe some of you are on NYSC, I don't know. But please just try to save towards this you grab. So please try to save, because well, I don't want to be telling you stories, but during my own time, actually my mom gave me money to buy a suit for my convocation then. So I actually used the money to pay for application fee. So after I just got something, you know, trouser and shirt, and I wore for the convocation, and everything went fine. Later I told her that I used the money to pay for application fee. So that's just it. So please try and look for money to pay the application fee. Also, you know, when doing the application, I'm going to mention some referees, right? So after submitting the application, they will contact your referees to send their recommendation. So I will advise you contact your referees. Please be nice to them. Tell them to give you a good recommendation. Sometimes, you know, people don't get admission because, you know, when your referee is writing like 3 paragraphs, the first paragraph, I write to support social application in in this department, he's a good student, is this. Then the 3rd paragraph, I support whatever, I know, just like it's too shallow, like nothing like deep relationship between the referee and the student, you know. Sometimes they don't consider it, because I remember a time whereby I think it's to CTU that applied to them, when they were considering my application, they said I should select maybe one of the 2 or 2 of 3 referees that I want to use. So like some schools will ask, okay, which of the 3 do you trust to give you the best application? Though you cannot see it, but you just have to like trust that, okay, this man will give me like a good recommendation. So you just have to like, so that's why I say you should try and get across to your referees to give you good recommendation. Then you prepare for the interview. This interview is kind of how should I put it? Okay, the interviews can be in different ways. Sometimes when you contact the supervisor, some will schedule an interview with you. So that is also similar to sometimes maybe similar to what the school will do. You know, sometimes after submitting the application, the school also will, some schools, not all schools, some schools will contact you for an interview. For instance, at HKUST, when I applied during my time, my supervisor only interviewed me. The school did not interview me. But for CTU, both the supervisor and the school interviewed me. You get, so that's just it. So just prepare for it. And I'm going to tell you what they expect you during, what they expect from you during the interview. The next thing is you pray for the offer, just we are religious people, you pray in your religion. If you're a traditionalist, you pray to your God as well, just to get to the offer. So then how to handle the interview. So the interview is actually, like I said, is actually to determine a few things. Why are you choosing the school? Why are you choosing the course? Then they would like to know, okay, what's the kind of the relationship between your academic and then your research background in line with the proposed course or the PhD program. And also they can ask about the relevance of your research, the research you're coming to do, what's the relevance, and they can ask you a few things about it. So it depends. And then after the whole thing, they will ask you, or do you want to ask us any question? So this time, you can use this time to ask for like questions like maybe the opportunity for collaboration between the school and other schools. And then I can even ask if there's a possibility that if you didn't get the HKPFS, can they nominate you for other scholarship? Because recently there are new scholarships in the school. We have the Red Bed, and then there's one that's not common, Belt and Roads. So other schools may also have like some scholarships as well that like kind of, because the Red Bed now, if you are on Red Bed, you won't pay tuition, and then you'll be given about maybe $20,000 every year. Then your first year, $40,000. So the Red Bed is almost the same thing as the HKPFS, because as the HKPFS student, you're also paying tuition. But if the Red Bed is waiving your tuition, like that's like it's giving you extra 40,000 every year. So you're more or less like someone HKPFS. So don't think if you didn't get HKPFS, there's no other scholarship. No, there are scholarships. So you can ask for like which other scholarships are available, and then you can still, you can even tell your supervisor to recommend you for other scholarships if you didn't get the HKPFS. So just ask about this. And then don't know if you are preparing for the interview, I will need to tell you that I need to relax. Just sit as like a six chat, have like a conversation. So don't, they are not God. So I mean, just calm down. You know, that guy, you know, that person, just calm down. Do the interview, relax, be competent, and then know everything in your essay. It's not that someone will write the essay for you. You don't even know what is there. They do not ask you something about in your what you wrote in your essay, and then you are like, so that would be good. And then don't say what you cannot defend. I get to me, because I think when I submit my CV, then I mentioned some awards. At some point, they asked me to produce a letter or documents or anything to show those awards. So I started contacting, because they don't keep records. Like I started contacting different people, like, oh, so organization, you gave me this award. How can I get a letter? All those kind of things. So I started looking for emails, like, so just anything on your CV, you should be able to defend it. And then especially when it comes to the award, have like go and look for the letter, the plaques, the certificates that support it. Just look for it. I get me, so that when they ask you to defend it, you can just produce those documents. You put it in form of a PDF or like a Word document, and then PDF is better than you send to them. So that's why I say don't say what you cannot defend, and don't put what you cannot defend in your CV. I get to be all in your essay. All right. So that's just all about the interview and the application process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miracle. Thank you for all the presenters. So now we will be taking questions, but please put your questions in the chat box. Do not unmute so that we can have a good recording at the end. So if you have any question, please, you can type that in the chat and the presenters will go ahead and answer your questions. Thank you. Someone is asking, are we going to send a research proposal when sending a code email to a prospective supervisor?
No, it depends on you. You can some do it. I get me. So some will, after the supervisor has agreed, some will now send proposal. It depends on you. If you feel like you are smart enough to prepare the proposal, why sending the code email? Just send it along. It's sometimes it shows like your readiness. To me, if you are sending your email or your proposal with your first email, the consent email, I will feel like, oh, this guy is serious, this person is serious. So yeah, if you can do that, it's fine. It's fine. So yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any other question? If you have questions, please put them in the chat box. Someone is asking, is it compulsory for them to have a supervisor before applying?
Dr. Mistura, can you answer that, please?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, what's the question again?
Is it compulsory to have a supervisor?
Well, yeah, it depends. You might have a supervisor. Usually it's advisable to contact a supervisor before you even begin the application process. Now it's your supervisor that will tell you, okay, go ahead, begin the application process, because there is a slot in the application documents that requires you to put in your proposed supervisor. So, but however, I would say that it's not compulsory in all cases, and that's why it's important for you to know the requirements of your proposed program of study. For me, I did not have a supervisor. I did not even contact a single human being before I applied for the HKPFS. And even after I applied for the HKPFS, not a single human being contacted me until I did the interview. And after I did the interview and I got the what's it called, the HKPFS. So I was given a supervisor after I got the HKPFS. So and for everybody that wants to come to my school in my field, I usually tell them it's futile to contact any supervisor because they are not even going to honor, the email. They will just tell you, well, you don't need to contact us, just go ahead and apply. So when you apply for my field and maybe my school now, the professors would review all the applications that are related to, communication, media, journalism, and select whichever one they feel that they can support, right? And then they would recommend such person to the RGC. But I think maybe in fields like sciences and engineering and all that, it might be advisable to contact a supervisor. So know what obtains for your research program and then, yeah, do that.
Thank you so much. There's another question here that says, one of the presenters advised we had award publication records during the application. Is there a separate slot for that, or everything has to be added in the SOP, or there's a separate part of the application where other publications can be attached?
Yeah, I think there is a separate part of the application that states if you have any award you mentioned, if you have public, absolutely there is, slots that, yeah.
I'll complete by next year, September. Does that affect my chances? Can someone who would finish their master's degree next year, September, still apply for the fellowship now?
Yeah. I think there's the best time to apply because if you get a scholarship, we just cross. And then sometimes if I will recommend that you will stay that you are doing your master's because it shows that you've improved on yourself after the UG, right? Then it gives you edge over someone that just coming from UG. And then sometimes can even ask you to send the transcript or the statement of results of your previous semester, maybe the first year. So you can state today that you're currently doing your master's and you're going to complete next year. So yeah.
What are the schools that are mostly for engineering in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think you can mention it then. PolyU, that's the Polytechnic University of Hong Kong, HKUST, the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and then we have the CTU, City University of Hong Kong. Those three schools are mostly for engineering.
Okay. Then
HKU as well. You can HKU, Hong Kong University, or the University of Hong Kong.
Okay. Someone said the professor replied positively to his email. and the professor asked him like 2 to 3 questions about the proposal he sent. So he's asking, should he modify the proposal or answer the questions that was asked?
Dr. Mistura, can you answer that, please?
It depends on what's the response to the email, was. If the professor, I don't know what the content of the email is, but if the professor is asking you, maybe usually when you submit a paper for publication, your reviewers might ask you to justify why you used a certain method and all that. So in that case, you explain the reasons why you used the method and all that. So I don't know what the response is. So if the professor wants you to modify it, then go ahead and do that. If not, if the professor is simply asking some questions and you feel that you can answer those questions and maybe justify your proposal or your research, yeah, you can do that. So you can just go ahead, depending on what he or she has asked you to do.
Can someone whose passport is expiring December next year still apply? Is that good enough time left for the
By December next year? That will be December 2023. Yeah, I think, yeah, the person can apply, use the current passport, because you cannot even renew. If you can only renew your passport if it's like up to 6 months or 3 months before it expires. So yes, you can apply with it. But if you do get the scholarship, you are supposed to resume in September next year. So by that time, you should have renewed the passport before you begin your visa application process. Yeah.
Someone says, I have a GPA of 4.85 out of 5, no publication yet, but 3 research papers currently under review. Can he apply?
Yes, absolutely, you can apply. You can very well apply, yeah.
Someone says, if checking for list of professor for Hong Kong Baptist University for PhD in economics, but couldn't find links. The links to the professors, are they on every school's individual website?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to the school website, each professor, teaching in the school has, list of publication records, the profile, the list of courses taught and all that. Even some have their CVs on it. So just check the schools and check the profiles of the professors. And sometimes when you get the name of the professor, you can also paste the name of the professor on Google to see someone, because some of these professors are actually adjunct professors in some other universities where some of them even have websites. So you might find their websites, go through their profile on some other platforms aside from the school websites that they have. So you can just do your research on different fronts. Yeah.
Someone is asking, the person already commenced the PhD in Nigeria. Is it okay to state that during the application that they already started a PhD?
Mr. Ike, can you answer that, please?
I would not advise that. So just state clearly, okay, this is what I want to do. Don't act like you have a history with the PhD somewhere, because it sounds like, okay, maybe you are discontented or something, and like you are not a committed person. It sounds like that. I think that is the impression that I will have if you tell me something like that. So why do you start that if you have no intention of finishing it up? Even though it may be for the best reasons, but hey, you have to guard against any negative impression that you might make based on any claim that you are stating. So I would suggest that you do not mention starting a PhD anywhere else in your application or in your email to the supervisor.
And it might also seem as if you have a competitive edge over those that don't have it, those that have not started a PhD already. So just don't talk about it.
Someone asked about is expiring by October, but you already talked about that. If you're normally you can renew your passport, I think at least 6 months when you have like 6 months left. So if your passport is expiring by October this year, it has already expired in my own case. So you need to apply for another one. Someone says, do they need HND, PhD, and master's certificate for the application? Like without a BSc, if the person has an HND, but they also have like a postgraduate diploma and a master's, would that be accepted for the application?
I believe that's acceptable. So I think what really does matter, given the fact that there's no BSc, the fact that you have a master's certificate. So the master's certificate should cover or whatever question may be raised by the HND and PhD certificates.
Okay. Someone says he's currently doing his MSc and has finished coursework and commenced thesis. Can this be referenced in the application? The person is currently in the master's program, but has done like the majority of the work, but he's not done yet. So can the person say, okay, if they're applying for like a PhD, can they say they are currently doing their master's at the moment?
The question is it possible for the person to finish before the admission?
Okay.
If it's possible for the person to finish before the admission process begins, yeah, I think the person can give it a shot.
If there are no other questions, this will be the end of our webinar. Thank you so much to our presenters. We really
Sorry,
do appreciate
I think you skipped the question. I think
okay.
this, do I stand a chance with 3.26 BSc? And the second, do they require, I think that question was skipped.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Is this person's CGPA 3.26 out of 4.0 or 3.26 out of 7? What exactly is it? And do they require whole level certificates for eligibility? Is there any requirement?
No, it's not necessary. I don't think so.
Okay. So I'm just not sure if it's 3.26 or out of 5 or 4 or okay, 3.26 out of 5. Do you know anyone who maybe has like a 2 or a 2? Okay, you said like there are people with 2-1, but have you heard of any case of people like a 2 getting the scholarship?
Actually, no. It will probably take a miracle for someone with a 2 to get an HKPFS scholarship in Hong Kong. As a matter of fact, I consider having a 2-1 and getting an HKPFS a miracle already. So not to talk of a 2. So
And you had
the person
something
can
to
still
that.
try. I don't want to discourage. Yeah, the person can still try.
I'd like to hand a little bit to Mr. Story, Dr. Salahuddin. Okay, I had a friend here on campus, and he finished with I think 2-1 or so. But one thing that really helped him was the fact that he had the highest CGPA in his class, and he had a couple of publications. So I think that sort of covered for he's not having a first class. You know, maybe undergraduate and say distinctions and masters. I think it depends on how much you have done in the academic and research circles to sort of show that there's a sense of improvement. I remember when I had my interview, my master's CGPA was higher, like was higher than my BSc CGPA, but then one of my prospective advisors sort of misunderstood with the order, and I thought I had a lower CGPA in masters compared to the undergrad. I said, why the drop? So I had to like clarify that, oh, you're making a mistake. I actually had a higher CGPA. So I think that sense of development and adding to yourself, I mean, making significant progress might sort of give them this impression, maybe, just maybe. So maybe you have, let's say, a solid publication in Nature, for example, just have a publication in Nature. So I think that would very likely override the 3.26, you know, might give a very strong consideration because Nature is a very, you know, very solid.
Right. Yeah, I would like to buttress what Ike said. Yeah, I did have a 2-1, but I graduated top of my class in my master's. I had a 6.0 CGPA. So I'm sure that was what they look at, not the 2-1. Yeah, so if you do have a 2 and maybe you have something way higher in masters, then I think you stand a chance too.
Then someone is asking about the other scholarships Miracle mentioned. Do they have their own separate application that someone can just go ahead and directly, or it has to be like if the person does not get HKPFS and they get recommended for those?
Actually, it's not as if there's a separate application for that, but the thing is, sometimes even what my school usually do is that sometimes if you didn't get the HKPFS, they will email you and was like, will you consider the red bed? Sometimes your boss can just recommend you for the red bed. But if you are smart, if you didn't get it, since you know about it, you can just email your supervisor like, can he recommend you? You know, just sometimes just with smartness. Guys do it during Commonwealth. You know, I remember one of my friends that was like, he got the Commonwealth and I was like, how do you do it? I was like, do you contact someone in the school to recommend you? And I was like, kind of. So it's just how smart you can be about it. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions? Let me see. Someone says it recently presented this paper in an international conference. Is there any part where they can say, okay, the conference is presented in today? And you can also put that on your CV if you've presented. Okay. Does any of our presenters want to add like a summary just before we end the webinar? Anything you would like to say, any word of advice or encouragement you'd like to give to? You can go ahead.
Mr. Ike, your closing remark.
Well, I wouldn't. I would just let me see. What really can I say? I'm trying to like narrow it down to just something very short. I think what I'm just going to say is going to be very general. It doesn't necessarily apply to applying for HKPFS, but just keep trying and learn from people. Like having a network of competent people gives you an invaluable advantage. Like you're having the right information, having the right OT, like they say in Nigeria. You have the right OT, like the right cheat codes, like the right buttons to press. It's going to give you an incredible advantage, and don't stop reaching out. Even HKPFS, Redbird, whatever application or scholarship you're trying to reach out for, don't stop applying. Don't stop applying. And have a very rich, make sure you connect to the right people. It's really important. The right information, the right people at the right time does wonders. That's what I'm going to say to wrap my part up.
The presenters can please go ahead with their closing remarks, but there are some questions in the chat. If you can just type the answers back to them, that would be much appreciated. Thank you. Miracle, you can go ahead.
Okay, what I just tell you is that I will encourage you not to relent, don't be discouraged. Let me quickly tell you a story in just 1 minute. When I started applying, I think I started immediately after my graduation in 2017. I applied to Commonwealth. I applied to like 7 schools. I was religious, very, very religious there. I fasted. I did everything. Guy, I didn't get it. I cried, because why I cried was like, I don't fast or no, I don't fast. At the time in my church that I stood and I said, Pastor was also the father. I was like, see, guy, I need the pastor guy. I was like, I can't fast. And the pastor in the old church, the pastor was like, why can't you fast? I said, I don't fast. That's just it. But when I was applying for the scholarship, then I fasted, but I didn't get it. So I cried, I was so sad for some weeks. But later, that same year, I applied for HKPFS. And then it was so funny that, in fact, I was in the church when I emailed the supervisor I got. He replied me that same day. We continued the conversation, and here I am. So that's just. So what I just said, that don't be discouraged. Sometimes you may not get it. Well, just don't be discouraged. If you didn't get this KPFS, apply to US. There are a lot of schools in US. So that's just it. If you didn't get US, apply to France, apply to Europe. Australia is there. Just spread the application. So keep pushing and you definitely get one. You just need one. So you can get many no's, but just 1 year, we just cover it. So I just encourage you to keep applying. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Please go ahead with your
question. Yeah, right. Yeah. So just like everybody said, you have to keep trying. And when you're applying for scholarships, don't just focus on only one. So if you don't get that one, then you now go for another. You can apply to several simultaneously. It's even better if you get like two, 3 opportunities, and then you begin to choose, okay, which one should I go for? Which one is more beneficial for me? So spread out your applications, apply to as many as possible simultaneously. And then beyond that, please, the beauty of pursuing a PhD is, I wouldn't want to say ends with getting the application, because after that is where the real work begins. So you have to be mentally prepared to start a PhD or to do a PhD, because it is very, very tasking. So while you're applying, try as much as possible to be prepared when the opportunity comes, because when the opportunity comes and you're not prepared, people drop out. That's just the interesting thing. Regardless of the amount they get from it, people drop out. So try as much as possible to be mentally prepared for what you're applying for. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for everyone for coming. Thank you to all our presenters for taking time out of your busy schedule to give us this webinar. This will be the end of the webinar today. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.